When I tell my friends that my grandmother is friends with Donald Trump, they think it's a joke. Honestly, I myself once wouldn't have believed such a story. But life sometimes creates plots that even the best fiction writers could not invent. My grandmother has always been a woman with character. She was born in a small village, lived a difficult life, raised children, and worked from sunrise to sunset in tough times. Yet she always carried a special energy, as if she knew something big was still waiting ahead. At 70, she wasn't sitting on a bench outside like others. Instead, she was reading English books and learning new words. She often said, "It's never too late to start something new." I thought those were just nice words. And then, something happened that changed my mind forever. One summer, my grandmother decided to travel to America. I accompanied her, because who knows how hard it would have been for her to fly across the ocean alone. She said she wanted to see New York, the same one glowing in films and books. We stayed in a small hotel not far from Central Park. And on the very first day, while I was still sleeping after the long flight, she went out for a walk. That's where everything began. According to her, she sat down on a bench to rest. Beside her sat a man in a dark suit and a red tie, surrounded by bodyguards. She didn't immediately realize who it was. He sat calmly, as if waiting for someone. Grandma greeted him, as she always does. And suddenly, they started talking. The man turned out to be Donald Trump. It sounds unbelievable, but my grandmother had no idea she was sitting next to the former president of the United States. She spoke with him simply, with no tension at all. He asked her where she was from. She answered, "From a small Ukrainian village." He smiled and said, "And I'm from Queens. We had our own kind of village too, only made of stone." They talked about life, about childhood, about how times change but people remain the same. Grandma joked that even presidents sometimes look like ordinary men on a bench, and he laughed. Between them something unusual appeared, that ease that can't be faked. She told him stories of her life, and he listened attentively, as if absorbing every word. When I woke up and learned who she had been sitting with in the park, I couldn't believe it. But then the bodyguards really did bring her a business card, saying Mr. Trump wanted to meet again. That's how their strange friendship began. In the following days, he invited her to lunch several times. I went too, but mostly stayed quiet, unable to grasp how my grandmother, a simple woman from Ukraine, could so easily talk with a billionaire and politician. She told him about planting potatoes, about keeping a cow, about raising children. He told her about business, about New York in the 70s, about television shows. And they found common ground. Once, my grandmother told him, "Donald, you talk a lot about winning and success, but do you know how to cook borscht?" He laughed so loudly that even the bodyguards turned their heads. "No," he admitted, "but now I must learn." And indeed, one evening she invited him into the hotel kitchen. After arranging things with the chefs, they cooked borscht together. Trump tried to chop the beets, and Grandma laughed, showing him the right way. He was clumsy, but he was happy. I watched and thought, this must be a parallel reality. Their friendship continued. They called each other, exchanged letters. He asked her advice, not political, but personal. She joked that now she had an American neighbor. When we returned home, Grandma kept remembering those meetings. She said, "You know, grandson, everyone sees him as a president, a businessman. But I saw a man who also loves listening to stories and laughing at jokes." And that's when I understood something important. True friendship knows no borders and no status. For someone he is a politician, for someone else a billionaire. But for my grandmother he became simply a friend, someone you can sit with on a park bench and talk about life. Sometimes I think it was her simplicity and sincerity that touched him more than any wealth or fame, because my grandmother always knew how to see not the surface, but the real person, and that is what makes her special.